I want to welcome you to Dream Chasers Radio with me, your host, Yaya Diamond. What's up, peoples? Okay. All right. We got a different kind of show for you today, but nonetheless, very informative and something that I kind of started off in college, but I kind of didn't finish. It's okay. I'm here doing this anyway. So I want to welcome to the show a lawyer. That's right. We got a lawyer on the show, Mr. Brian
Yeah.
Adesman. Thank you so much for being on the show.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
No problem, no problem. I saw that you were in the news before, but let's go back a little bit. Let's go back to college. Why did you choose law?
Yeah, that's a good question. I I kind of didn't really choose law. It kind of chose me, to be honest. I initially wanted to work in the entertainment industry, doing like being like a talent agent, actually. I pretty much all my career choices in life have been sort of tethered to whatever TV shows I was watching at the time. So I was watching Entourage a lot. And I was like, okay, I want to be a talent agent. Before that, I wanted to be a plastic surgeon because I was watching Nip Tuck, and before that, I don't even know. But so I want to be a talent agent. So I moved to LA, and I was like working for talent agencies and some PR firms and stuff, and doing that. And then law school kind of came into the picture because I was thinking like, okay, if I go to law school, I can become a movie producer, which is nonsensical. That's just horrible execution to try to get from point A to point B, which at the time it seemed like a good idea. As a horrible idea. I went to law school, and then in law school, I kind of just got sucked into the law firm traditional lawyer path. Because that's kind of what law school is designed to do, is push people into being lawyers. So
Mm-hmm.
so that's how it happened. It was kind of accidental, but then once I did it's got its serious pros and also serious cons. But I guess that's any job, right?
That's funny. Like you can
Yeah.
be a lawyer and then be a movie producer. That's funny. Was that one of the shows you were watching at the time?
I was watching a lot of Entourage. Maybe it was inspired by that. I don't know. I was just thinking like, oh, that'll give me the edge, But that was just a stupid idea. It was really dumb. And I was thinking at USC, they let you take movie. Like I took classes in the film school while I was
Mm-hmm.
at law school, and I took classes on producing and stuff. But the classes were all kind of BS, and the profession's kind of BS. To be honest, it's kind of a made up profession. But yeah, I still would love to do it. Maybe one day, maybe in another life, I'll still do it.
Well, I see some guitars back there on the wall. Tell me
Yeah,
about that.
I do play music. I've been playing music since I was, I don't know, like 12 years old. I don't think I've gotten much better since I was 14. So I'm kind of plateaued at 14. But yeah, I play guitar and piano. I try to sing sometimes, not very well, but still try. Been in some bands, managed some bands. So I've done kind of the whole thing.
Manage some bands? Tell me about that. I
Yeah.
mean, that's kind of cool though. I'm not gonna lie, because I'm a musician. I'm a singer, and music is like my heart, and I know it is too for you. And it's like,
Yeah.
okay, usually a lot of lawyers are into music. Tell me why this goes hand in hand.
I don't know, you need something to keep your semblance of a soul alive when you're being a lawyer. It's so easy to let it die out. So music's a good way to do that. And managing a band was really fun. Like, it was in college. It was actually a band that I was in like middle school. I was in the band. And then kind of broke up, and then they went to college and we went to different colleges. So they started kind of a new band with a better guitarist than me, and which I was happy about. But I wanted to like still stay involved, and I just had a ton of faith in the band. I really liked the music like a lot. I really had a lot of faith in them. So I just started managing them. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I just called a bunch of venues and I booked them like a whole tour across the state, like 14 stops, and got them on the radio, got them a social media following, and never like took off. It's kind of a bummer. I think we were a little early. Like it was before YouTube, really
Mm.
became like a platform for more of like a meritocracy with music. And I think if it happened a few years later, maybe it would have happened for them. But they're all doing normal jobs now and happy, and so maybe it was for the best. But yeah, managing a band was really fun. We have a really lot of good stories, and there's a lot of work, but it was fun.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I doubt that music ever leaves your being. No matter what you do in life, music never ever should leave your being, because you're right, it does keep the sanity. And you have had some crazy kind of court things going on. Tell me about this. It's Caesar Milan?
Yeah, so I worked at a big law firm for like 5 years, where we were representing, mostly like major corporations. We did represent some people. We actually had a cool case when I first started there where we represented Jay-Z, in a lawsuit over Big Pimpin' that was like a 10-year case, and we won that one for Jay-Z, which was cool. But mostly representing like big corporations and doing a lot of defense side work where we defend them and stuff. And then after 5 years, I sort of decided to leave that, branch out on my own. So I started my own firm, and I also joined up with a previous colleagues of mine, his firm. He had a lot of cases. And so some of the cases that we do have gotten some media attention lately. Like we sued Caesar Milan, the dog whisperer, because his dog attacked and bit our client, who was a gymnast. She was like heading toward the Olympics and really a talented gymnast. And then his dog viciously attacked her. And in that lawsuit, while we were investigating the case, trying to look at the background facts, investigate whether this dog had any previous attacks, because that becomes relevant in our case, we actually learned that the dog previously attacked Queen Latifah's dog, and that Caesar Milan basically covered it up and instructed his staff to tell Queen Latifah that the dog was hit by a car. And so we put that in our lawsuit because it's relevant to our case, right? Like if he knew that his dog was violent, then he should have taken proper steps to protect the public from his dog, and he didn't. And then that was the first time that news ever broke. So that like leaked to TMZ, and TMZ ran a bunch of stories with it, and then it became kind of a media circus. And so that was one case in the media pretty recently. Another case pretty recently in the media law was we sued a major health insurance company because they were basically treating mental health care claims different than they were treating physical health care claims, which is illegal. There's a law that basically says health insurers have to treat both equally. And, our complaint alleges that they basically imposed very strict, rigorous standards to have a health insurer or to have a mental health facility allowed under their health insurance, whereas those same standards weren't present for a physical health facility. And so that's, against the law. So that's another case that was kind of reported about a lot, but a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, definitely. Wow. That is a lot of stuff going on. So both cases, are they still ongoing?
Still ongoing. It takes the wheels of justice turn very slowly. It's a long process when you get involved in this, and a lot of hurry up and wait, and takes a very long time. So it could take years, who knows, but we'll see.
Wow. So what kind of law do you do? There's all kinds of law out there, right?
Yeah, there's a lot of different areas, and I try to remain as much of a generalist as I can. So I try to like keep my areas of practice as open as possible, because to me, one of the fun things about being a lawyer is kind of learning new areas and doing these deep dives and becoming sort of a subject matter expert in a new field. So I like doing that. So I try to remain open, but basically what I do generally is litigation. So that's all courtroom stuff. I try to get into the courtroom as much as possible. That's the fun stuff to me. And trials is what we do and what we really love doing. And so anytime we can go to trial, we'll take that opportunity 10 times out of 10. Most lawyers, don't have a lot of experience going to trial because it's so rare in the civil arena, at least. And so we pride ourselves on going to trial.
Wonderful. I love it. Are you doing what you really, really want to do now that you I would say herded into the legal system? It's kind of like you were like, wait a minute, where are we going?
I think if I was doing what I really wanted to be doing, I'd be like on an island somewhere sipping Mai Tais and playing ukulele. So I don't know if I'm doing what I really want to be doing, but if I have to do a job, yeah, I'm probably doing what I want to be doing. I don't know what else I'd be better at. So it's a good for now.
Mm-mm. What kind of a question do you get when you get, with people and they're like, oh, okay, so you're a lawyer. So this is the question that you get most often. What is that question?
How do you defend guilty people? Probably
Mm.
is the one I get a lot. Although I
Have you
don't do
ever?
criminal law, so that's, um, anytime you get a case, there's varying degrees of merit to, like, if you're doing the defense side, let's say,
Mm.
there are varying degrees of merit to whatever the other side is saying your client did, right? And
Mm.
sometimes what they're saying your client did, they just absolutely didn't do. It's just completely false. Sometimes there's some truth to it, but it's not really legally relevant. And then sometimes, they're right. Your client did something that wasn't that great, and you have to deal with it. And there's nothing wrong in those instances when your client did something not so great to fight still and to go to court. That's the right that they have. And as an attorney, you're obligated to give them the best possible defense that
Mm.
they're entitled to. You're not the judge, you're not the jury. So it's not up to you to decide whether your client's guilty or innocent. You have to always fight for your client to the best of your possible ability within the confines of the ethical rules that you're, required to follow. You can't lie or something like that.
Right.
So, but in those cases, if the client, did do something that wasn't right and they might be liable, it's prudent upon the lawyer to, have a real candid conversation with the client and tell them, like, look, what they're saying, it looks like they have a lot of evidence to support this. It might be worth settling and not going through a long process where you're going to have to disclose a bunch of documents, a bunch of information, more stuff might come out. If you want to do that, we can, and maybe we'll even win, but is it worth it to you? This is what they're asking for. This is what we think they'd take. And having that conversation is important. But honestly, in my practice, even when I was representing mostly corporate America, it would probably surprise most people to learn that in my personal experience, and I can't speak for anyone else, 99% of the cases that were brought were just so frivolous. Like where they were saying my clients did stuff that just had zero factual merit at all. And it was just like my client was 100% innocent of what was being claimed. And it was, made it pretty easy to win. And we won most cases. But that was one of the most shocking things I think I found, because I thought I was going to have to be constantly, representing big evil corporations who were poisoning water supplies in Flint, Michigan or something, and, giving some legal argument as to why it shouldn't matter. But it really wasn't the case. Most of the time, it was a lot of greedy lawyers who thought they could get a quick buck by making some frivolous claims against a company with deep pockets. That was the vast majority of cases I dealt with were in that camp.
Oh my gosh. Wow. Wow. It's such a pleasure to have a lawyer on. What is the one question that you wish people would ask you?
Probably something like, what steps should I take after I've been the victim of something to give me the best chance legally in court? Because so often people, have horrible accidents happen, or they're discriminated against in horrible ways, or just some injustice, and and I wouldn't expect them to know the right things to do. It's not always intuitive, but they don't do the right things, and then if they wait long enough, it becomes pretty much impossible to bring their case to court, and almost more impossible to be successful if we did, because they just didn't do the right stuff.
So answer that question for me.
Yeah. So, I mean, the right things I would suggest, there's a few. Number one, if you're injured, go immediately after the accident happens, like immediately as soon as you can, to a doctor so that they can take records of all the injuries. And that way, if you wait a month to see a doctor, then the other side has a good argument that, well, who knows when that injury happened? She waited a month, and in that month, maybe she got another car accident, or maybe she slipped and fell. We don't know. We'll never know. But you can't say that those injuries were caused by us. There's a whole month that went by. So that's one thing, is immediately get a record of your injuries. And that also includes like emotional injuries. If you have emotional suffering as a result of an accident, immediately see a psychiatrist or a psychologist and keep those records and keep them organized. That's the biggest thing that I see people not do. And it's just so necessary. If you don't do that, you pretty much can't have a case, no matter how bad whatever was done, whatever happened to you happened. And then, like, similar to that would be to keep really good records of everything, which, you know, keeping a good record is a skill that you kind of have to learn. Meaning, let's say you have a phone conversation with your employer where they say all this nasty stuff and discriminatory stuff and stuff that's illegal. Well, if you don't follow that up with an email saying, hey, I just wanted to confirm what we just spoke about on our call. You said this and I said that and you said this. And, you know, if anything in here is incorrect, please immediately respond with a correction, because that's what I, you know, just heard just now. Immediately writing the email, writing a memo, even if you don't want to do an email. Because, you know, if you don't have a record of it, a year and a half later, when you're in a deposition saying what you remembered happened in the call, it's worth almost nothing. A year and a half goes by, your memory's fallible. But if you have a record of something, you wrote it down right after it happened, well, that's a really important record. That's pretty ironclad. So that's another thing. And then other stuff, just, you know, kind of common sense stuff, like talk to a lawyer as soon as possible. Don't talk to the other side. If they call you and their insurance adjuster wants to ask you a bunch of questions, they're not working for you. They're literally working against you. They absolutely are your enemy. They're not trying to help you.
Believe me, I know. Believe me, I know.
Yeah.
Believe me, I know.
I mean, they have a duty to not help you.
Of course they do. You know, I just had a flood in my house and I called the insurance agency and they're like, oh, this and that. And it wasn't because of anything. It was because of a faulty piece that was put in my kitchen. And I had just got it done. And so I called the company that did it. I'm not going to mention their names. I called the company. They sent over the last people they sent over. They fixed it, but the damage had already been done. And they only gave me a certain amount of money. I'm like, excuse me, how am I supposed to do this with this?
Right.
No.
Yeah.
So I called an attorney.
Yeah.
That's great. The attorney came over and said, okay, so that's almost done. We can get you a little bit more for that because I don't see how you're going to do that with that. Mm-hmm. But let's go check the rest of the house.
Yeah.
I was like, exactly. Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, and they don't call me and I don't want to talk to them. You talk to my attorney. I don't want to, don't call me. Don't send me nothing. You talk to the attorney. The attorney takes care of this. And this stuff should have been checked when you came in the first time to check on all this stuff. Because when you buy a house, they come out to check on it. Obviously, they didn't do good.
No. Yeah.
They didn't do a good job. They just wanted the account.
Exactly.
Well, now they got to come in and fix it.
That actually reminds me of another tip, which is, and I'm sure you did this, but yeah, when something like that happens, always take pictures of, if you get in an accident, take pictures of your injuries, take pictures of what the other side's car looks like, everything, picture everything.
I'm going to tell you one thing, one up on that. You ready? Because I mean, you know, one up on that. I'm all for documentation. Do a TikTok.
Sure. Yeah.
And then download it.
Yeah.
Because they asked me if I had any pictures. I said, I have pictures and I got a TikTok. They're like, let me see the TikTok. Because the TikTok was in action. It was like showing what was going on at the time. So they watched it and I sent it to them and they were like, oh, this is perfect. Yeah. And I was like, okay. Yeah. So you can use social media. Definitely at that time, it was time stamped and date stamped and everything. So
exactly.
Wow.
Yeah, that's really all important stuff. Hopefully that gets worked out for you. I'm sorry that happened.
It is. I told them, I said, I will wait.
Yeah.
I will wait.
Dealing with insurance companies is painful.
Oh, but you know, I ain't got to deal with them no more.
Yeah, that's
great. What my lawyer's for.
Yeah, exactly.
So definitely. I mean, you know, being a lawyer, can it be? Okay, this is the stigmatism behind being a lawyer. Is it really boring?
Yeah, it's very boring. Honestly, it's not, if they made a real TV show, what it was like being a lawyer, you'd be bored to tears. It can be boring. You know, there can be really fun, exciting parts, but they're fewer and far between. That's why I like doing trials and stuff. Trials are exciting and fun. Like but even with trials, they're not as fun as you see on TV. They're boring parts of trials. They're long, tedious, but they're fun. Like I'll watch trials on YouTube just for the fun of it sometimes. I'm kind of a nerd. But yeah, I mean, the day to day, oh my God, it's so boring. It's like
Really?
unimaginably boring. It's like just reviewing, sometimes you're just reviewing. Like I've had cases where I'll have to review 1,000,000 documents. Like that just takes so long to read 1,000,000 documents. I had one case where we were working with a Japanese client. And there are cultural differences between Japan and America. And I think one of those differences is Japanese people, the business culture is like they work very hard. Like they're very, very hard workers and they expect everyone else to work very hard. I remember we had a case where we had a Japanese client that was had a contract dispute with like an American state. And they were telling us what was going on. This was like a Friday. I think that's a Saturday for them. And we're like, yeah, we can give you a write-up of what you should do, but we need to see the contract first. Obviously we need to see the language of the contract. And they're like, okay, we'll send you the contract. We expect to write up by Monday. And this was like my first year as an associate at this big firm. And like they sent the contract and it's 3,700 page contract. It had to be like sent in 10 PDFs. And they were like, all right, Brian, do the write-up, like give the analysis. I'm like, it's 3,700 pages. Like it's like 2 Infinite Jests by David Foster Wallace. Like I can't even read 1 Infinite Jest in a lifetime, let alone a weekend. And they were like, well, figure it out. And we figured it out. We got the case and we did really good work for them. But, that's boring. Reading a 3,600 page contract, like about engineering too. It was about like engineering specifications. It doesn't get much more boring than that.
I'm so happy I didn't pursue that.
No, you made a good decision. When people tell me that they want to be a lawyer, I'm just like, just don't do it.
No, just don't. And could you, literally, can you lose yourself in law so much that you become a different person, someone drab and just not interesting, and maybe even lose yourself in the midst of all of that?
Oh, certainly. I think honestly, I could be wrong about this. Maybe I'm just speaking from personal experience, but I think anybody who chooses to become a practicing lawyer who actually does it on a daily basis, it will for sure change as a person. I don't see how you can, unless you were already born that way, in which case, I don't know, you probably had an interesting life of a lot of loneliness and solitary, existence. But unless you're already like that, I think it has to change you. And I've even heard some people talk about, this didn't happen to me, but people talking about like changing in law school, like when just you like taking a criminal law class or a torts class where you're just reading like 50 cases a day about people being decapitated and, sexually assaulted and you have to speak about it in such a emotionally detached way, like you can't in class start talking about how bad you feel for the people. That's just not your job. And it honestly could cloud your independent judgment if you do start thinking, oh, so it's actually going to make you a bad lawyer. So I've heard even people talk about like several of my friends have talked about like, oh yeah, just doing that made me much more apathetic, made me much more matter of fact. That didn't really happen to me. I just thought these cases, whatever, they're interesting. I watch a bunch of dark YouTube videos and stuff anyway, so it's like I can read a boring book about some bad stuff that happened. But yeah, it changes you for sure. Like, I would imagine most jobs would, but being a lawyer definitely does. It has to.
I couldn't do it. I could not. That's probably why my teacher told me I couldn't be a lawyer.
I don't know. Anyone could do it, but you would change. Another thing that changes you about the job is like, I always forget that in like other people's jobs, they're not constantly dealing in an adversarial relationship, right? Like all of my days are spent in a conflict essentially with someone who wants the exact opposite thing I do, probably doesn't like me. I probably don't like them. And so you get really good at dealing with those situations. So like it's kind of just funny. I think just generally as a society we've gotten very unpracticed at dealing with conflict. And I think that most people have conflict. They think they're being attacked personally and they just lash out, or I don't know, it's an oversimplification, but with me it's like I get paid every day to have conflict. I'm a professional conflict I don't know, like participant. So I don't take it personally, and I'm happy to disagree with someone, and it doesn't mean I don't like them or they don't like me. But it just, that's another thing that changes you. It just changes who you are for sure.
Yeah, no, I'm like that too. I'm like, look, I don't like you. You don't like me at this moment, but in about 5 minutes, we're going to go to lunch. How about that?
Yeah. I'm also just too tired to care about most stuff. You know, it's like, I don't
Yeah.
get where people have the energy. It's like,
Yeah.
how can you be like, to be offended, you have to have energy and care. It's like, I don't know. I'm just like, oh, just, okay. All right. Just tired.
Yeah.
Just whatever will get everyone to stop yelling at me.
At the end of the day, at the end of the day, I think that the reason that I don't really like to get in conflict with people is because we're going to need each other at another point in life. There's going to be a point in life where we're going to need each other, and all of this stuff, we're not going to remember what this was. We're not going to remember this argument. We're not going to remember what it was or how it started, or even why we don't talk to each other anymore. It's just not going to be important anymore. And I think that we should get to that point now. You know what I mean? Because in the future, definitely, if you need me, guess who's going to be there? Me.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really important, and I think a good way to look at it. And while you were saying that, made me think of like another difference between what I do and conflict and like the real world social issues and stuff is that, with what I do and I'm having a conflict with someone, I know exactly what their position is. I know their goals. Their goal is to get the best for their side. My goal is to get the best for my side. And we both know each other's goals, and that might make it easier to engage in that conflict because we know where the other one stands. Whereas now, like in just everyday conflict, I feel like we're not very good judges as to like what the other side's goal is and where they're coming from. And then we usually will interpret, negative motives to the other side because we think, well, their goal must be to whatever, do this bad thing. Whereas probably not true.
Right.
But I think it's easier to do that in the real world than it is with my job.
Mm-hmm.
So that's another difference.
Yeah. So let me ask you a question. And I mean, we're almost done, but this is the one question that is probably on all of our minds right now.
Okay.
Give us some pointers on how we can get past and not get offended and continue good, healthy relationships.
Yeah, I don't know if this is me speaking as a lawyer as much as just a person, but I've thought about this a lot because honestly, I mean, just speaking selfishly, like I really liked when we could have disagreements. Like it was fun. Like to me, I think debate's fun. I think disagreements are good. I think everyone from a good, healthy disagreement and good, healthy debate, I think both sides walk away smarter and better and maybe more reasonable. So yeah, I miss it. And I think, I think one thing is you have to assume, unless you have a very good reason not to assume this, that the other side's operating in good faith and once is working towards some goal that's probably the exact same as your goal, that they don't want bad things for people. They also are trying to accomplish some greater good. And maybe you guys disagree on what that is, but they're not like evil people because they don't agree with you, probably. So of course, maybe some people are. And if they are, you got to decide how to deal with that yourself. But most people that you probably think right now are evil and wanting horrible things probably aren't. They probably want the best for the greatest number of people, and they just disagree with you on how to accomplish that. And that's totally fine. Maybe they're right. Maybe you're right. Maybe both of you are wrong. So that's one thing. And I think another thing is to like, I don't know how to get people to do this and think this way, but to stop thinking of every one of their ideas and views as like a component of who they are as a person. Like it's not your identity. You're not just made up of what your ideas are. And if somebody has a disagreement with one of your ideas, they're not disagreeing with you as a human being. They're not taking away your humanity. So just put it in context. Like it's not, like they're not the enemy. Just have a conversation, be okay. Like if someone, and another thing is I think everybody should have a healthy level of skepticism as to whether they are actually right in their views. And if you have that level of skepticism, you shouldn't want to be wrong for a second longer than you have to be. So like if somebody has a better idea than you and shows you why you're thinking on something is just wrong, don't dig your heels in. Just if you really understand fully, like, oh yeah, I was wrong, they're actually right, well then just in real time change positions. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
good. You're not right on everything. So that'd be my tips.
That's wonderful tips, man. I tell you, because we lose so many close friends and so many good friends by just misunderstanding sometimes. I just think we just don't understand it. We're saying the same thing here.
Yeah.
We're just really saying the same thing, okay?
Yeah.
It's just a different way to get to the same result.
I know. I think empathy has gotten lost a lot in translation. We need to bring empathy back and respect each other as humans first before we think of each other as political tools or whatever.
Definitely. I want to thank you so much, Brian, for being on the show. You have enlightened me and shown me that I did not need to be a lawyer.
Yeah, no, you made the right choice. I tell everyone that who leaves or who thought about it, does something else, like, good for you. You dodged a huge bullet.
Oh yeah, I went to college and I started off as a major. My law was my major, entertainment law, but it would have really messed me up for the entertainment business. I would have been like, I'm not even going to get into that.
Yeah, no, you made a very wise choice. So good for you.
I think
definitely don't think twice about it.
I'm not. And I want to say that people can find you on two different, well, actually you have an upcoming website, but they can find you right here at, how do you say that? Creshy. Wow. These are so, I am learning how to pronounce different names and different words, and just, this is all amazing. Creshy Law. So it's creshy.law/Brian.Adesman. See, I said that right.
Yeah. Perfect. 10 out of 10.
Yes. And also you have an upcoming website, Miller Adesman, coming really soon, right? MillerAdesman.com.
Mm-hmm.
Great. So we're looking forward to actually, conversing a little bit more in the future. Maybe we can do something, along these lines where you get some tips to people about keeping those relationships healthy. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Be happy to come out. Maybe this could be my transition out of being a lawyer, and I can become like a health counselor or something.
Hey!
Self-help person. And I can be found on Twitter too with just Brian Adesman if you want. Sure. Yes. Perfect. Love it.
So no space between Brian and Adesman. Thank you so much, Brian, for being on the show. I appreciate it. I had such a wonderful time. I hope you win both cases.
I think we will. I don't think I've really lost a case yet, so I don't want this to be the first. So
100% true. If you guys need a lawyer, are you able to represent just where you are, or are you licensed for the entire states?
I'm licensed in Washington too. I should be getting my bar number there any day now. I finished all the applications and stuff.
Nice.
And I was sworn in. And then soon Oregon as well. But yeah, if you have a problem anywhere, you can always hit me up. I can probably refer you to an attorney I know, or still maybe give you some guidance.
Wonderful. Well, Brian, thank you so much. You guys, if you have any problems, please contact Brian. And if he can't do it, he knows somebody that does.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And thank you guys so much for tuning in to Dream Chasers Radio. And this has been an amazing show. And thank you guys so much for tuning in on Georgia, Comcast 25 in DeKalb. Thank you guys so much for tuning in on LWR in London. I appreciate and love you guys. And I hope to see you soon. And until next time, don't forget to dare to be different. Bye. I did to be different.